Hey guys, how you doing? Hopefully you're doing okay. I'm gonna read through the majority of this article, I believe. It's fairly long, it's fairly detailed. It may get a little bit, I don't know, too much for some of you perhaps. There is a link in the description if you'd rather go through that. It's such a sad story, so I'll try to give you an overview to begin with. Such a sad story. Essentially, an unidentified infant, a baby girl who's known as Baby S, essentially she was likely killed, she was likely murdered, and then discarded. And she was found on a conveyor belt in a recycling center. Yeah, like literally a recycling center. She was buried, and the company did very well. The company that runs, owns, manages the recycling center did very well. They held a ceremony for the unknown baby. Um, the article will give us quite a bit of detail, but it's going to tell us that an autopsy was performed, and seemingly the results aren't 100% explicit. They don't know exactly how the injuries occurred, but it does say that the final autopsy reports that the baby S, died of a traumatic brain injury. How that traumatic brain injury occurred, the autopsy isn't able to point to, but it could have been due to excessive shaking. So it seems that the newborn baby was killed, murdered, likely through excessive shaking, perhaps smothering, and then the baby was discarded, likely in a bin, likely in a, like a commercial bin, a dumpster, which would have been collected, and the contents of that dumpster would have been emptied into the garbage truck, and the garbage truck would have transported all of the garbage, forgive me for my words, including this newborn baby, who I believe would have been deceased at this point, would have been deceased prior to being dumped, is my understanding, and would have transported that baby in the dump truck to the recycling center, would have been filtered through its filtering process, however that works, and it was found on a conveyor belt. That's a pretty thorough overview. I'll give you a little bit more of an overview, and then perhaps we'll just read through the remainder. A newborn baby girl found dead at a waste recycling center after being dumped in a bin was born alive and may have been shaken or smothered. Uh, the baby girl has been identified or called Baby S, but it's unknown who she is. She was born alive at full term, and then she was found on a conveyor belt on a processing line at a recycling centre called Sackers, which is in England, Needham Market in Suffolk. This happened May the 14th, 2020, whilst England was experiencing its first COVID lockdown. Police believe the baby was dumped in a bin at one of 52 commercial sites in the Ipswich area. And she was less than a day old when she died. A pathologist identified a number of possible mechanisms in regards to her death, which could have caused the injuries leading to her death, including a traumatic birth, shaking, or smothering. But the one pathologist couldn't determine which one it was. So I believe this is saying that it was initially believed that a traumatic birth could have been one cause of death, but seemingly it's been confirmed as traumatic brain injury, with the cause being unascertained. So maybe that is still a possibility. Traumatic birth, shaking, or smothering. The senior coroner said, "We simply cannot say exactly how baby S came by her death and how she received the injuries which led to her death." So here are some pictures of the ceremony. So the company has been praised for holding the ceremony, very respectfully so. There were a number of attendees from the police as well, attended the ceremony to, pass on best wishes and such. So it is clear that the baby girl was born alive. She was actively breathing. We have minimal information as to who she could possibly be. The article tells us that she was recorded to be dark-skinned, possibly of African descent, and to have been born both full-term and with no evidence of underlying disease. She was born healthy, seemingly. She died within the first 24 hours. Here are some details concerning the injuries she sustained. So I mentioned that, so that you can brace yourself. Baby S had numerous severe injuries, with the majority occurring after death, including fractures to the skull, pelvis, and ribs, which could be explained by damage through the processing plant. How disgraceful. How disgraceful to have given birth to a healthy child. There is, from the details here, it's indicating that it's possible that the baby died due to a traumatic birth. That's one of the possibilities. The other possibilities are that she was murdered. She was killed due to excessive shaking and or smothering. That would seem likely to me. We've read through so many articles in which that exactly has happened. Regardless, even if it was an accidental death, it's so disgraceful to discard this child's body in a dumpster. Just so disrespectful to human life. She could have been placed into the bin whilst alive, but her death isn't attributed to her going through the waste processing. Okay. So the investigators have been scouring 11,000 hours of CCTV footage. They've investigated over 800 addresses in order to try to find out how Baby S came to be inside a bin, which gives me some level of comfort that the authorities have taken this situation with such seriousness. I respect that. It just shows a great deal of respect for the deceased child and for this situation. So as we say, there was a graveside ceremony. It was attended by 15 people, including police, council officials, and staff from the recycling centre. So again, I like these guys. The recycling centre have done themselves proud, as have the police and the council workers, I'm sure. I'm going to wrap things up here at this point, guys. I've gone through the full details there pretty much. If you do like this type of coverage, if this has been valuable, if it's been worthwhile to go through, if it's given us an opportunity to have a moment's reflection on the dark sides of life and to remind us how fragile life is and how valuable life is. We don't know Baby S, but we're all touched by the fate of this child, aren't we? We're all touched. You know, it's just terrible. Just discarded. I mean, perhaps likely murdered would be my guess, my speculation. Likely murdered, not necessarily likely murdered. And then discarded, perhaps alive. In my interpretation, more likely discarded once she had died. But either way, discarded. In such a horrific way. In full knowledge that the baby would be subjected, perhaps alive, perhaps dead, subjected to being in a dumpster, being in a bin, being moved into a dump truck, being taken to a recycling plant. You know, it's just so disgusting how anyone would subject any human, any being to such a thing. It's disgusting. I'm going to wrap things up here, guys. I will be making more videos throughout the day and in the evening. Please do like, comment, subscribe. Don't even have to watch the other ones. If this one's upset you too much, then stop watching. Go and do something more enjoyable. I would like to do some fun things, perhaps on this channel, perhaps on another channel, which may or may not be everyone's cup of tea. But I would like to do, I need to do some fun things personally. And I think it would be nice to do some fun things with you guys as well, those that do watch quite a number of the videos and go through these topics. It would be nice to have some fun together, I feel. But anyway, we'll leave that for now. I'm going to wrap things up. Take care.